Meghan Markle's was never is in such deep trouble. Indeed, it is a business catastrophe, which we are going to expose in fascinating, intricate detail today, as a new lie is exposed in her Netflix documentary, calling her credibility further into question. But first, royal YouTube sensation, according to Taz, believes she has rumbled the post-was-never plan for Meghan, revealing, okay, I am calling it. Meghan's next business venture will have something to do with the following words, the one and only. She has had it feature in 2 of her Instagram posts lately, just like when she started signing off as ever. This is her next toy when, and I like that you've said when, Tash, not if, as ever folds. So, Tash, it does seem clear, doesn't it, that there has to be a new phase. And do you believe that this could be the brand that would take in beauty and fashion, the one and only Meghan Markle, because there's only one of her? Thank God.
Yeah, a little bit. Especially when you say that, when you say those words, all I can hear, and everybody's been saying, all I hear is Chesney Hawkes, and I was like, don't ruin Chesney Hawkes.
I'm not going to sing. I'm not going to sing, I promise.
But Meghan is narcissistic enough to have a brand. Now, she keeps hinting that she wants to go into beauty and fashion, that people see her, don't they? And they think of beauty and fashion. Of course they do. But she is narcissistic enough to have it about her, the one and only. I could see her trying to have a clothing label under that name, perhaps even the initials. But it's the way that we've seen Meghan drop little hints when she thinks she's being clever and cutesy. And she did that with As Ever. She started signing off things before As Ever got launched. And I think that's what gave away enough clues for someone to sleuth and do the searches. And they found As Ever. And remember, it was cats out of the bag, guys, because obviously she knew that American Riviera Orchard was tanking. She wasn't going to get it. So she lines up something else. Archwell. We know Archwell Foundation was tanking. Then we get Archwell Philanthropies again. So it makes sense with obviously the speed, I think, of which Meghan's As Ever products are not selling out, despite obviously getting other influencers to help her and, limited edition matchboxes. I don't think she is getting the figures to, keep this going for much longer. So it does make sense that she would be lining up, if she hasn't already, her next project. She's like a child. She gets bored very, very, very quickly. And she wants the flash in the pan. She wants the attention. She wants the interviews, the magazine covers of this is my next project. And she's about due for that. So it wouldn't surprise me. I've got no insider information, but it's just a gut feeling, having followed this woman for a number of years and seen the things that she does. There are signs there that something is definitely brewing in that cauldron in Montecito.
Well, then we get to the actual stats, Tash, and it's Jack Royston in Newsweek, and I give him credit for this because he used to be a Harry and Meghan propagandist, but of late he is starting to burst the bubble a little bit, isn't he? It's quite good. Yeah. And he's actually looking for empirical evidence. Do you know what I mean? Actual data, actual stats, because it's all well and good people like me saying was never is a total flop, and I am convinced of that based on my conversations, but he is looking for stats that back it up, and I say all credit to him for doing that. And this might sound technical, but effectively what I'm going to take you through, the overall is that Meghan Markle's brand is a disastrous failure. And he has managed to work that out by looking at the inventory, because remember that was leaked earlier this year, and comparing it with the US website visits, which is, of course, the only way that they can sell the product. And Tash, just before we get to the details, it is worth pointing out that came in a week where Meghan Markle actually decided that she is no longer the best face of Was Never. She decided to hire a woman called Olivia McDowell, who's an online influencer. Now, Tash, I'm going to be honest, I'd never heard of her. She's got something like, I think, 250,000 followers on Instagram. So she's not massive, right? But she's not nothing. But the irony for me with all of this, Tash, is I thought she did such a better job than Meghan Markle. I thought the way that she was selling the product and making it sort of like an American-inspired English afternoon tea was actually quite lovely, far better than any of the videos that Meghan's done.
Yeah, I still found it really cheesy for me. But yeah, she obviously, she's younger and she did do a party. I watched a couple of the videos that she uploaded and she made it, very pretty, very pink, very girly, something that I would expect someone like Brooklyn Beckham's wife to be really into, with her little pink, pretty barbecue, sort of like unicorn cakes and things like that. It's that sort of really girly cheerleader stuff. But this is the thing. it to me is now coming across like they're trying to aim it at younger girls, that sort of era of the Paris Hilton ones that still love things pink and fluffy and cutesy. And they're not really going to be spending that sort of money on stuff like that. So again, whilst she is getting someone else to uplift her brand, I just think she doesn't particularly have the right audience to make a sudden burst in sales for her. I can't see that this is going to be the turnaround that she needs, because the younger people, I mean, when you're in your 20s and, did you think that, Dan, you'd be ever looking at, really luxury jams that you can buy for £13 a jar or something, or, luxury candles and things? No, you were not.
Tash, I am such a stereotype, though, because, I used to never understand candles. So I always used to say, oh my God, why are people spending all of these money on candles? I'm never going to buy a candle. Like, that's when I was in my 20s and 30s. Yeah. You get me into my 40s and it is my greatest passion and love in life. And please, if anyone wants to buy me a present, buy me a scented candle. Just not a was never one, because it will come without a wick.
I'm Yankee all the way.
But I do know what you mean.
Yeah.
I do know what you mean. It's not the right market.
No.
But Tash, I think this is based on like a business desperation, though, because it's clearly an attempt to see, well, will someone other than me move the dial? And that is a horrible realization to come to. It would be like you realizing on your channel, according to Taz, or me realizing here on Dan Wilton Outspoken, if I put a video hosted by someone else, it would perform better. Well, that means your whole business model doesn't make any sense. Do you know what I mean? And that doesn't. But I know why she's doing this, and it is because of these figures that Jack Royston has pointed out. So let me just get through them, Tash. It's a little bit technical, but it's very, very interesting. Okay, so he says, put your thinking cap on. Meghan Markle has had just under 400,000 US visitors to her As Ever website since January, when a website floor appeared to reveal inventory levels of more than 650,000 units. A person with knowledge of As Ever told Newsweek they anticipated it would double in size this year. By any measure, for any startup, you can't deny that is anything but a success. People are obsessed with wanting her to fail. The commentariat, I mean, they're talking about us here, Tash, are clouded by their own prejudice and a need to perpetuate a narrative that her business is a failure because they pegged her that way from the start and they can't take being wrong. So that's the setup. You've basically got Meghan Markle saying to people like you, people like me, Tash, it's just your prejudice. You're not prepared to say that As Ever is a success. Now, I think that's absolute balderdash, because we both were very clear, for example, with the Harry and Meghan documentary on Netflix. We both reported at the time, Tash, that was a runaway success. We reported that Spare was a runaway publishing success. Now, it doesn't mean that we didn't criticize it, but we, of course, look at the facts. Like, they have had successes. They're just few and far between.
Has the Montecito business dream officially turned into a nightmare? For months, royal watchers have been waiting to see if Meghan Markle's highly anticipated lifestyle venture could survive the brutal world of retail. But with the latest shocking leaks, those hopes aren't just slipping, they are crashing down. Now, many top royal commentators are screaming one specific word: catastrophe. Reports are flying that Meghan Markle is plotting a shock U-turn as her luxury brand, As Ever, faces total closure after secret stats were ruthlessly exposed. Stay with us, because this isn't just another critical headline. We are about to look into the intricate empirical details of a brand on life support, a website glitch that bared it all, and the panic-driven pivot that has left Team Montecito completely exposed. There was a time when Harry and Meghan promised to take the financial world by storm. When they spectacularly stepped away from the British royal family back in 2020, their ultimate goal was simple: complete financial independence and the freedom to build a global, multi-million-dollar commercial empire. At first, the entertainment deals rolled in. There was the blockbuster Netflix documentary, and then Harry's record-breaking memoir, Spare. Millions of dollars changed hands, and the couple proved that their personal stories could move the financial dial. But eventually, a major problem arose. You cannot sell family grievances forever. To sustain their ultra-luxurious California lifestyle, Meghan needed a long-term business model that didn't rely on trashing the House of Windsor. Enter her major lifestyle brand rebrand, As Ever. The brand was supposed to be Meghan's answer to King Charles's incredibly successful High Grove estate, a luxury line of artisanal jams, honeys, teas, and high-end candles. Initial reports from inside her camp claimed the early product drops were a runaway success. Sold out in minutes. Read the headlines. But according to investigative findings recently published by Newsweek, the reality behind palace doors and California warehouses tells a starkly different story. The turning point came when online data sleuths stumbled upon a catastrophic glitch in the As Ever website backend. The site had no limit on how many items a user could add to their shopping basket. If a user typed in a massive number, the system would automatically drop the basket count down to the exact maximum available inventory sitting in the warehouse. And just like that, the secret numbers were out. But here is where the data becomes incredibly alarming for the Duchess. Because when analysts took those exact warehouse numbers and compared them to actual website traffic, they realized the business model wasn't just struggling. It was mathematically imploding. Let's look closely at the empirical evidence. The digital data leak showed that Meghan's brand had packed its warehouses with over 650,000 units of stock, including an estimated 80,000 tins of edible flower sprinkles and nearly 90,000 premium candles. The retail value, over $21 million.
Yeah, and they're getting further and further and further between.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the fact is, when it comes to like myself, I mean, I will still give compliments to Meghan, when compliments are due. If she wears a nice dress, I will say that she looks nice. If Harry and Meghan do something and, sometimes they are damned if they do, damned if they don't. There are a couple of things that they've done. And I think, perhaps that should be seen as a nice thing. But the problem is because they've done so many bad things, people struggle to see them as doing anything genuine and warm. So you're rather skeptical. And then the problem is because they've lied so much as well, it's hard to take anything that they do as truthful or they actually mean what they're doing. But when it comes to as ever, I mean, it is something that's just rather absurd, and it always has been. Meghan has spent the last few years alongside her husband earning money, trashing the royal family and being a victim. And then she tries to recreate her own royal brand. And let's be fair, that's exactly what she's doing. And it's like she's trying to just do a version of Highgrove. She is doing what, the King's Highgrove estate does, the jams, the honeys, the teas. And it's just not working. Her target audience changes, and I don't even know who her target audience is really, because it's certainly not her fan base.
No, I don't think she does.
And the advertising, everything that she's done to promote this has just been absurd, and none of it makes sense. And if you didn't know what she was selling, a lot of the time the adverts that she takes the time to do, you wouldn't know what she's selling.
100%. And remember, we've had sources from Netflix actually say, no, it isn't working. She's not listening. We do have these warehouses full of products. But what Newsweek did, and this is what's interesting, given this sort of threat almost from Team Montecito to say, well, if you slag off as ever, it's just because you hate Meghan Markle. So what Newsweek has done is use data from digital intelligence platform SimilarWeb to estimate Meghan's potential customer base, comparing it, and this is very clever, with known inventory figures to assess the relationship between supply and demand. Meghan's as ever in January was, of course, leaked, and it showed that she had 650,190 units of stock, worth around $21.8 million based on sale price, not cost. At the time, her raspberry jam had sold out, suggesting some items were indeed selling, though she had a significant amount of other lines, including 80,000 tubs of edible flower sprinkles worth around $1.2 million and almost 90,000 candles worth around $5.7 million. The data emerged because online sleuths realized the website design placed no limit on how many items could be added to the shopping basket by customers. That meant that when users attempted to add hundreds of thousands of goods, the asever.com website would simply reduce the number in the basket to the maximum available stock of each item. The data was posted to Reddit on January the 3rd. Oh my God, I love you, sleuths. Amazing stuff. And at the time, Newsweek confirmed the numbers with a source familiar with as ever. The source, though, defended the website's performance. It's exceeded everyone's expectation in terms of how well it's gone. I would say across the holiday period, that period has been incredibly successful. People are attempting to paint a negative narrative and are choosing how they present things, choosing how they share information to fit a particular narrative to perpetuate certain negative storylines. And this is just another example of how people have to be really discerning with the way they not only consume media, but the way that they interpret data and facts that are shared with them, because they often don't present the whole picture. Okay, well, let's look at the whole picture then, because Newsweek has crunched the numbers. And Meghan had 392,000 US visitors to her website from January to May, some way short of the more than 650,000 inventory items in January. Total visits were a little over 1 million, with Britain, Canada, Australia and India among the other countries. SimilarWeb also tracks bounce rate, which is the potential of people who view only one page before leaving. Those visits would not have led to a purchase, as that would involve visiting more than one page. Among her total visitors, Meghan had a bounce rate of between 34 and 40% for each month of that period. There's no regional breakdowns. It's not possible to tell the amount of Americans who bounce. However, across all visits, around 382,000 visitors viewed only one page, while around 675,000 viewed more than one over the 5-month period. International visitors may have been more likely to leave quickly because, of course, we know the products only go to the US. Either way, the data adds another layer to what we know about the size of Meghan's audience compared to her inventory. It is worth noting that not all the January inventory is perishable. For example, her candles are unlikely to go off. But, Tash, what this proves overwhelmingly is that she is not even close to selling anywhere near what she expected, given the massive amount of inventory currently going rotten in warehouses across California, because she only sells from this website. Now, okay, there are a few sort of asides here, like, yes, maybe some people would go on and buy hundreds and hundreds of products, but come on, Tash, we know that is unlikely.
No, you probably get the odd gift for someone if you knew that they liked Meghan. You might buy them a keepsake candle or something like that. But I mean, when I think about buying gifts for friends, I wouldn't be buying them jams and honeys, A candle, maybe something like that you can keep afterwards. Like Meghan says, you can keep and put your pens in it or whatever. But it's such jam and honey that you can go to a farmer's market and you can get fresh produce if you like jam and honey for, half the price, if not, probably cheaper. And, it's actually fresh made. People, when they go to the supermarket, they go for the luxury jams, the Bon Maman. And, there's various other ones. And they are a fraction of the price of what she's charging. So I can't see, as I said, the target audience for the products that she sells. And, the latest thing, that the matches, that's a giggle in itself, really. Just selling a box of luxury matches that once you've used them, you're left with an empty matchbox, a cardboard box. It's not even like when I went onto some of these websites that manufacture these, you can get beautiful tins, you can get lovely things that you can keep your matches in, that you can, in fact, keep and you can look after and have it as a treasured thing for years. But Meghan's so cheap with the produce that she's putting out. She's not even putting stuff, I would say, in keepsake tins, even the tins of tea. There's nothing pretty or attractive about them. And some of them even have the white sticky label peeling off. They're just basic. Everything about her stuff is basic, but it's not basic prices. And that is something that I think is echoing with people that just do not want to buy her stuff.
Then we come to this claim that Meghan Markle misled in the Netflix documentary. And this is because of a viral TikTok post. And actually, Tash, let's look at the post. Let's look at the post together, because you'll see that's the photo that she gave to Netflix showing her cooking fish when she had that dinner with William and Catherine. And the idea is that she was casual and so nice. But as this TikTok says, there's only one problem. I've actually been able to discover that this was an old social media picture posted in 2023, even though William met William and Catherine in 2017. So, Tash, it does seem to suggest that there were so many lies in that documentary, because it was very clear that the idea they wanted to present was Meghan being, little casual girl, cooking her fish at Kensington Palace while Catherine was stuck up. But it was just an old picture.
Well, this is the thing, and it just proves that the whole story that they told about the royals, it's fictional. So, of course, they don't have photographic evidence for a lot of the stories, the lies, let's be honest, that they told to Oprah and on Netflix. So then they've had to use photographs. I mean, at least this one is actually Meghan cooking, but I believe it was back when she was, in Toronto, wearing her Toronto Blue Jays hat. And I think it was probably for her partner that she was living with at the time that she crossed paths with Harry. But that's a whole different story. But I do think that they have had to use photographs to portray things that just did not happen. We saw that it was to do with them being targeted, wasn't it, by the paparazzi? And that was actually Katie Price, Jordan, ex-Page 3 model, outside Crawley Courthouse. Then they used the photographers that were outside a Harry Potter film premiere to say that, oh, God, the pressure was just too much for Harry and Meghan. They were hounded. They were harassed. And in truth, they still had to call the paps out to tell them where they were. And that's even when they were part of the royal family. So again, it just further backs up that they told so many stories that the majority of the stuff, which we all know, I believe now, the majority of people had the wool pulled from their eyes, it was just fictional. So of course she's used pictures from a different time of her life because she made a lot of it up.
Yeah, she did. You did. We've also learned this week, Tash, that Soho House remains firmly in the Meghan Markle fold, and that, yeah, indeed, there's sort of like there's a clapback, isn't there, for Marcus Anderson? It's like there's a reason why he has stayed so doggedly loyal, and it is to get the brand Soho House out there in the media. So this story clearly leaked, I believe, to Talk of the Town in the Mail. Meghan picks Soho House designers for the makeover of her and Harry's £6.3 million Portuguese bolt hole. Now, of course, Tom Sykes would say, well, why the hell are they not renovating the very awful-looking kitchen in Montecito, which all the neighbours laugh about, but she can't afford that. And I would say this is a freebie. I don't know that, Tash. I don't know that, but I know how Soho House tend to work. If it's leaked out there, then usually they will do things for free for the publicity. And trust me, this was quite a publicity drive. Let me just take you through the article. It's the swanky private members club that prides itself on a muted style that appears effortlessly casual, but which has in reality been meticulously created. I mean, this reads like a press release, not an article in the Daily Mail. So perhaps it's no surprise that the Duchess of Sussex, who is equally fastidious when it comes to aesthetics, has chosen Soho House's designers to recreate the fashionable vibe of their exclusive venues in the Portuguese bolt hole she and Harry brought for £6.3 million in 2023. The pair have a long relationship with the global chain of clubs. It was in the Greek Street venue in central London where they went on their first blind date in 2016, and they often hung out at its Cotswold retreat Soho farmhouse where luxury cabins cost up to £1,200 a night. In 2019, the couple enlisted Soho House's former design chief Vicky Charles to renovate Frogmore Cottage in the grounds of Kensington Palace as part of a £2.4 million makeover that the couple used taxpayers' money via the sovereign grant caused a backlash, prompting the couple to pay back the full fee. I mean, I still laugh at the fact that they honestly thought it was a good idea to use British taxpayers' money to pay Soho House. Anyway, Charles's company, which he runs with James Corden's wife, Julia, another name drop, was also said to have worked on the Cotswolds home the Sussexes inhabited while the work on Frogmore was being done. God, they spent a lot of money back then when they had money, because it wasn't their money to spend, right? The Beckhams and George Clooney are also loyal customers. Soho House has long had its own interior design consultancy set up for members who want to recreate the club's look in their homes. And now it seems there will be a little bit of Soho on Portugal's Atlantic coast. Well, I'm sorry, Tash. I know a PR job when I see one, and that is absolutely a leak. That is a PR job if I ever have seen one. So effectively, I would assume pretty clearly that's going to get Harry and Meghan a free home makeover. I might be wrong, Tash, but that's how these things work.
Well, I said I was cynical with anything that comes out to do with Harry and Meghan. I'm still pretty cynical about this property even being in Portugal, belonging to them anyway. I have my doubts. I just feel like they live in that house, apparently, and I've got my suspicions about that, the one that they use in a lot of the videos. And it hasn't been updated. Now, this is a woman that has an aesthetic that likes everything white and cream and beige. And yet, years after moving into that home, are you telling me that she didn't spend anything on updating pots and pans and tiles? You don't have to spend a fortune to even just stick a lick of paint around and change the very dated kitchen. But this is where I think that they use that place as a studio rather than a home. And I mean, I think there's just so much bullshittery when it comes to this couple, because I just do not see that they have the sort of money to be buying a property in Portugal. Why have they never been over to Portugal? Why do you never see them in Portugal? We hear that they've been over to Portugal, but unlike Jack and Princess Eugenie that actually live in Portugal, Harry and Meghan are never, ever seen out there. Now, if they're buying a property, renovating a property and having Soho House in there, why do we never see them? I just feel like this is another thing of smoke and mirrors, but that article and everything to do with this, totally marketing. Of course it is. That is a presentation for Soho House, an advertisement for anybody. If you would like your home to look like a hotel meetup, come to Soho House. We have our very own interior design team. And perhaps even Harry and Meghan got a payment for it. But that is nothing more than promotion.
Yeah, absolutely. But as I say, Tash, get Soho House in to deal with the Montecito home, so that you could actually maybe film in your own kitchen. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that is pretty dated. And the fact, as I said, they've lived there for years and they've never updated it. No, I'm sorry. I'm certain there's something very suspicious about that being their home, in all honesty. But, as I said, I think those two have just made me so cynical because they've lied about absolutely everything. So when a story comes out, you're like, is it true? Is it a half truth? Or is this just Harry and Meghan's truth, which we know is never the actual truth?
But when Newsweek cross-referenced this with independent web analytics from SimilarWeb, they discovered that between January and May, the site pulled in under 400,000 unique U.S. visitors. Worse still, the site is facing an aggressive 40% bounce rate, meaning nearly half of those visitors clicked a single page and instantly left without buying a single thing. The cold, hard truth is that the supply is massive, the demand is practically non-existent, and millions of pounds worth of perishable product lines are reportedly sitting in California warehouses, ticking away toward their expiry dates. Launching a business is never easy, but doing it under the fierce glare of global scrutiny makes failure devastating. Imagine realizing that the public brand you have meticulously tied to your own identity is quietly tanking. For Meghan, the stakes couldn't be higher. Every drop in web traffic is analyzed, every marketing pivot is picked apart, and every shift in strategy is interpreted as a sign of weakness. In a desperate bid to turn things around, Meghan quietly stepped back as the primary face of the brand, hiring online influencer Olivia McDowell to sell the vision with a younger, pink cheerleader aesthetic. But critics argue it smells like ultimate business desperation. If your target demographic can buy high-quality, artisanal jam at a local farmer's market for a fraction of the price, a luxury markup simply will not stick. But perhaps the most shocking revelation isn't just the warehouse backlog. The real question is this: is Meghan already throwing in the towel on as ever to launch an entirely new U-turn project? According to eagle-eyed royal watchers, something massive is brewing in Montecito. Meghan has recently been dropping subtle, cutesy hints in her social media posts, repeatedly using the specific phrase, "the one and only." It's a classic pattern. We saw her do it right before launching as ever, signing off letters with the phrase months before the official reveal. Commentators believe she is already lining up her next toy, a potential beauty and fashion label under the one and only Meghan Markle, built entirely around her own singular image. It's a textbook move for a celebrity founder. When the current project faces closure, you execute a massive U-turn, shift the goalposts, and chase the next flash-in-the-pan headline. Meanwhile, her credibility is taking hits on other fronts. A viral TikTok recently exposed yet another continuity lie in her multi-million-dollar Netflix documentary. A photo meant to portray Meghan casually cooking fish at Kensington Palace when first meeting William and Catherine back in 2017 was actually unmasked as an old social media photo from her Toronto days years earlier. When your media narrative and your retail numbers are both exposed as heavily fictionalized, consumer trust completely evaporates. To completely distract from the unfolding retail disaster, the Montecito PR machine has kicked into overdrive. Just this week, a highly polished story leaked detailing how the Sussexes have hired exclusive Soho House designers for a massive makeover of their $6.3 million holiday home in Portugal. It reads exactly like a corporate press release. Experts widely assume this is a classic marketing trade-off, a free, luxury home renovation in exchange for global publicity for the Soho House brand. But the public isn't blind. People are already asking the obvious question: if the Sussexes have the capital and the design teams to overhaul an offshore retreat, why does the dated, heavily mocked kitchen in their primary Montecito mansion remain completely untouched after all these years? It is a game of smoke and mirrors designed to make them look incredibly wealthy and successful, right as their primary retail venture faces a total meltdown. So, will Meghan pull off a miracle and salvage as ever before the stock completely expires? Or will she execute this rumored shock U-turn into a new one and only beauty empire? The data tells us that the current model is unsustainable. The warehouses are full, the buyers are missing, and the clock is ticking. Do you think as ever is an absolute catastrophe destined for closure? Or can Meghan turn it around with her next big rebrand? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you want the absolute truth, empirical data, and no censorship commentary on the British royal family and the ongoing drama in Montecito, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We'll see you in the very next breakdown.